now proceed to the IP Addresses Plenary on Policy Authoring and Participation. The moderator for the session is Mr. George Guo, Senior Advisor at the Services Unit at APNIC. The moderator is joining us online, and we have our panelists from on-site and online as well. So without further ado, I will now hand the floor to the moderator, Mr. Guo. Mr. Guo, the floor is yours.
Good. All right. Well, good morning to you all, whether you are in the conference hall in Taipei or joining us online. I hope you and your family are all well. So welcome to this plenary session on IP authoring and participation. I am George Guo, participating as the session's moderator as introduced. Now, some of you may know me through my previous roles at APNIC, and I'm currently serving as the Senior Advisor for Services. I work closely with the National Internet Registry and APNIC Services partners. I feel very privileged and honored to be here, and I must say a big thank you to the event hosts, ICANN APAC and TWNIC, Anthony Lee and Ching Henku, for your invitation to be the moderator. In this IP plenary session, we will talk about matters around policy changes and participation overall in the PDP, which is the policy development process. IP addresses as known as well, the internet number resources are a very critical part of the internet. Without these resources, we will not have the internet today, which is an essential part of our daily lives. So it does enable us to get together here from many parts of the world and to discuss and share information at the same time. The management of these resources is vital to stable internet operations, and I believe so is the ongoing development of the policies. Now, in this session, we will hear the policy framework, the coordination and facilitation on the local, regional, and global level. Speakers will also share their experiences participating in the policy development. And today and this morning, we have 5 speakers. They all play different roles and are from different parts of this region. And welcome to all the speakers, and they have rich experience in the policy development. We will have time for questions, and I want to invite the audiences on site or online to feel free to ask questions to the speakers. And please mention your name and affiliation when you ask questions. So now I would like to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Sunny Chandi. Sunny and I are colleagues for many years. Sunny Chandi is currently the APNIC's Senior Advisor for Policy and Community Development. Sunny is a familiar face in the Regional Policy Forum and APNIC conferences. He supports the policy seek to ensure proposals and discussions are carried out as required, and he helps with policy analysis inside APNIC secretarial functions. Sunny is also responsible for enhancing the level of community participation among APNIC members and stakeholders in the region. Sunny also supports the APNIC Fellowship Program, which many of you may be aware. So now I would like to invite Sunny to give his talk. Sunny, are you ready?
I'm ready, George, and thanks for that introduction. Greetings and good morning from Australia in Brisbane. It is a huge honor for me to be asked to speak in this great collaborative event by ICANN APAC and TWNIC. So I'd like to thank my friends and colleagues at ICANN APAC and TWNIC for inviting me to be part of this session. APNIC is the IP registry, as you all know, for the Asia Pacific, and heavily involved in the capacity building, like George mentioned, fellowships, that I manage to provide opportunity for those who can't make it to the APNIC conferences to be part of it. And also, one of the core responsibility of APNIC is policy development process. We, as a secretariat, we support and facilitate the policy development process in the Asia-Pacific region. So I briefly will cover the APNIC policy framework and the development process, and then open for any questions that you may have. So let me share my slides. Yeah, so this is setting the scene for this session. And also, as George already mentioned, we are in the session discussing the policy environment. So I begin with what is a policy. I'm sure there's a lot of definitions out there, but within the Asia-Pacific, within APNIC region, a policy refers to the guidelines, to the requirements or the criteria for APNIC members, those who want to receive or request IP resources, that including IPv4, IPv6, and AS numbers. Now, there's a subtle difference between a policy and a proposal. As we all know, a proposal is just an outline of an idea. It's formally submitted to the community for discussion. And if everyone agrees to that proposal, then it becomes a policy. Once we implement it, it becomes a policy. So just remember that when you interact with someone, there is that subtle difference between a proposal and policy. And I often come across in the community, many of people say to me that, this is a policy we are discussing in this meeting here. And as I correct them, no, this is a proposal we are going to discuss in this meeting here, but it's not a policy yet. So the other question you might ask me is, who sets these policies? Myself, George, and other colleagues yesterday in different panel sessions, we all work for APNIC Secretariat. But as I said, APNIC Secretariat supports and facilitates the development of policy process in this region. But APNIC Secretariat does not make these policies. These policies are discussed, debated, and decided by the community. And the proposals are submitted by the community as well. Sometimes, yes, we could, as a secretariat, we could suggest or we could propose some proposals, but in a very rare instance that happens. And also the APNIC Secretariat role, and especially myself as a person managing this Pdp process, is to refrain from making any public opinions on the proposals that's put forward for the community. However, we as staff of APNIC Secretariat, we also have to analyze those proposals internally, and we do that internally, and we put forward our impact assessment to the community so they understand our views, the Secretariat views, when they discuss that proposal. So why do we need resource policies? Now, I believe you are all participate in ICANN meetings, in other forums, etc. We do need these resource policies. So we have a policy in place, guidelines, criteria in place for everyone else to follow, and it's black and white. It's fair for everyone. It's consistent. So the IP address allocation delegation, when APNIC makes, which are public shared resources, we follow the same criteria regardless who you are or who is requesting them. So those addresses can be fairly distributed and consistently to everyone who requests them. The common aim of the policy here is to ensure proper usage of internet resources as per the technical, operational needs and requirements of that network or of that business. And this is also important to have a stable growth of internet, as well as safeguard those resources for future use of your future members who may come and request them. Now, the goals of resource management are quite simple. Uniqueness, like we all use mobile numbers, we have a unique mobile number for every device that we have out there in the world, right? So we don't have the same device using the same number. In the same way, IP addresses are also unique. Only one device, like my laptop here or your laptop, is connected to internet using that unique IP number. You don't see a collision of that same number on the internet anywhere. The registration is quite important because we want to let everyone know, or everyone like to know, who is using that IP number or that IP address or that IP resources. So the registration, when APNIC delegates those resources, we register them in the WHOIS database, and I'm sure you're all familiar with WHOIS when it comes to domain or IP address. Aggregation is very important, so the routing table size can be minimized and the routers can function efficiently. Conservation of addresses is to safeguard the addresses for future use for those who require them, so we don't waste them. So the delegations of IP resources happens as per the needs of the network, which is demonstrated through the policy process to the Secretariat to receive the delegation. And fairness, I think I already covered the fairness of the policy environment. Now we have different resource types, policies in place. We have policies for IPv4 address space management. We have policies for IPv6 address management, and we have policies for autonomous system management. Now, these are the three typical type of policies that you see, but we also have policies for transfers. If someone want to transfer their resources from one entity to the other entity, or the entities have merged, or the one entity acquired the other entity, takeovers, we have policies on those as well. And again, all these policies are in place and put forward by the community, agreed by the community. We also have policies around historical internet resources. Historical internet resources are those before the RARs came into existence. They were distributed by Internic in USA, and also we have policies around them, how those historical internet resources are applicable today and with the current structure of RARs and the policy environment. We also have policies for experimental allocation. So if someone is keen to have a research project, and they need IP resources for that experiment, we have a policy to make that delegation for that experimental research project, and it's time-based. So what's APNIC role in this in the development process? APNIC as an organization manages these resources, so it implements the policies and it provides the services to the community. And the specific roles mentioned here is, we provide information to those people who are interested in getting involved in the policy development process. We support the policy seek. I'll go that later in my presentation. We help authors. If someone is interested out there, who want to draft proposals, we help them. We provide them support to them because it could be new for them, and they probably don't understand what is the process or how to start, and we help them. Once everyone agreed and discussed and agreed a proposal, then we will implement it. And we change the policy document with that implementation, and we educate the community and our members that the policy is changed, please refer to the current one. So those are the key aspects of that, our role. Now, we have different types of policies that I covered earlier in the APNIC region, but also we have different policies when you talk about the regional and global policy development process. So the internet number resource policies we have within the region, within APNIC, or within each of the RARs, as you can see on the screen. We have 5 RARs in the world. So within individual RARs, they have their own policy development process. They have their own policies, which don't affect the other RARs. But a global policy is for everyone. Is for all the RAR regions, and usually these are performed by the IANA within ICANN, the PTI, the Public Technical Identifiers department within ICANN. And as you can see on the screen, we have few, not many, but few global policies. Like, for example, there's one for the IPv6 allocation to RARs. There's ASN block of allocations to RARs. So RARs receive these IP resources from IANA, from PTI. And then they further delegate to their membership within their own region. So we need to have a policy framework globally at that level, how IANA or PTI delegate the resources that they have to the RARs. And then within each RAR, how the RARs delegate to their members, to their community, the policies there as well. We also have a policy on IPv4 exhaustion. You probably know about that. We exhausted IPv4 a long time back, and then we have a policy. When we hit that last few blocks of IPv4 resources at IANA, how do IANA then distribute them to the RARs? There's a policy on that. Now, how does this global coordination happens, the policy coordination happens? I will go in detail about how it happens in the APNIC region, but let's just briefly look at how it happens on the global scale. So on the global scale, ICANN board is responsible for ratifying these global policies. And that happens through the ASO, the Address Supporting Organization, which is part of ICANN structure. The ASO is represented by 5 RARs. We call them number resource organization when it comes to RARs, because we primarily deal with numbers, not domain names. So when it comes to RARs, we are a NRO, number resource organization, but it's the same as ASO. Address Support Organization, and we have elected community members on this council of NRO or council of ASO from each of these regions. They are responsible for, including the Secretariat of NRO, they are responsible for this global policy coordination. So if there is a global policy that goes to the NRO or the ASO, and then it get discussed in each individual RARs, and it must be agreed in all the RAR regions for it to become a global policy. And if it gone through all the RAR Pdp process and then agreed by all the RAR communities, then the ASO will ask the ICANN board to ratify that proposal, which then becomes a policy, global policy. I hope that's very clear for you. Now let's come to the APNIC policy framework. When you come to the APNIC policy framework, we have a policy special interest group. We call it Policy SIG in short, and they have a charter. The charter is to develop policies related to internet number resources, and also including transfers, registration, WHOIS, reverse DNS, RPKI. I believe the RPKI was covered yesterday in one of the panel discussions, so you probably are familiar with it. Simply, it's just routing security and related services. So anyone who's submitting a proposal, if it falls into this charter, then that can be discussed in this particular group. If it's out of this charter, then it will be sent to other groups to discuss, but it won't be discussed in here. So what is a SIG? It's just a special interest group. People collectively come together and say, okay, we want to discuss policies in the APNIC region. Then we put all those individuals into this group, and they are part of this group's mailing list. They're part of this group's interactions, discussions, whether face-to-face or on the mailing list. So in APNIC region, we call them a special interest group, but when you go to the other RARs, they may call it a working group, or other names. They may have a forum or something else, but they're all same. And if you want to be part of this group, you need to subscribe to the mailing list and then join the discussions. Now, currently the policy group have a chair and co-chair, and they both are part of this session. They are here in this session. So Bertrand Cheria, he's acting chair of this SIG. And Ching Henku from TWNIC is the co-chair of this policy SIG. And from APNIC Secretariat, myself, my colleague George Odagi, we provide support to the chairs, and we provide support to this SIG, and we provide support to the entire community. Now, Bertrand as acting chair and Ching as co-chair may cover this part of the discussion, but I'll just briefly mention how the decision making happens when someone submits, put forward a proposal and that get discussed, and how then everyone agrees or disagrees to it. So we call it a consensus decision making. It's a general agreement. It's not by voting, okay? So we don't count votes. It's not like elections where everyone cast a ballot and we then count the ballots and we declare the person who got the highest number. This is not like that. This is a general agreement, a general feeling. And I believe Bertrand and Ching may talk more about this later on. And if anyone is objecting to a proposal, there could be a minor objections, some minor problems that a person may see, an individual may see regarding that proposal, and they may come and express. There could be a major objection. Technical difficulties of implementing a proposal could be a major objection, which is not feasible to implement what is suggested in the proposal. And if there's any major objections, usually that person who is majorly objecting to that proposal have to come forward and express that to the community to discuss why it's a major objection, and then so the others can understand. And also the person who is proposing the policy change could also understand, why there's a major objection, and may change the proposal solution later on. So the idea here in this process is to everyone to work together to resolve any objections, whether they are minor or major objections, and move forward the discussion so we can have some sort of consensus on that proposal. How do we make the consensus in APNIC? So I'll just quickly, I have 5 minutes. I'll just quickly cover the PDP process. This is quite important for you to understand. As you can see on the screen, we have a process in place, and we also have timelines. So you see 1 week, 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, and 3 months. We have very strict timelines in the process to implement, to discuss and implement a proposal. So it all starts with someone coming forward and proposing a policy change, and that goes to the SIG chairs and co-chairs, and they will look at that proposal. They will see if it fits into the charter of that policy SIG or not. If it does, then they will request the Secretariat to put that proposal on the mailing list, and the proposal has to stay on the mailing list for 4 weeks before the community come to a face-to-face meeting. And in that 4 weeks, the community can discuss the proposal online on the mailing list and put forward their comments, whether they support, they don't support, their arguments against that proposal or for proposal. And then at the face-to-face meeting, whoever proposed that proposal, the author of the proposal comes to the face-to-face meeting, either in person or remote. They present the proposal, and then the chairs will open the discussion with the community in that room during that process. And then the chairs will call for consensus. Once the proposal is presented, discussed by everyone, then they will move to the next step of calling for consensus. And if the consensus, everyone agreed to that proposal, then it will go to the AGM or the APNIC general meeting or APNIC member meeting. The reason it goes to the second level of consensus is because once a proposal is implemented, it needs to be actioned by the APNIC members. And because at the conference, we may have parallel sessions, so all APNIC members who are at the conference may be attending other sessions which are happening in parallel. So it's important that the proposal goes to the member meeting where all the members come together, and then they have to agree on that proposal as well. So there's a double consensus there, and then if consensus is achieved in that second time, then it goes back to the mailing list for further discussion for at the minimum 4 weeks, or that can be extended upon chair's decision. And then that's a second chance for the community to discuss that proposal before it is sent to the APNIC Executive Council for endorsement. If there are major objections at the time on the mailing list during that last call, final call of that proposal, then those need to be discussed, and the chairs will decide whether the consensus has been reached or not. If it reached consensus, it goes to the Executive Council for endorsement. Once it's endorsed, the Secretariat have 3 months, at the minimum 3 months time to implement that proposal and make the changes in the policy document. Sometimes we could take more than 3 months if we have to make any changes to our process, internal process, or the systems that we manage. So what happens after the OPM is I have gone through, after member meeting, it goes to the mailing list again, EC endorsement, final call for editorial comment period on the changes that we have changed in the policy document, and that completes the implementation. That means everyone within APNIC region, all the members then have to comply to that new policy change. I have briefly explained how someone can trigger or activate the PDP. It just takes a proposal. And that starts the PDP process, and then it goes to the mailing list, agree, disagree, and the discussions. At the policy meeting, as I said, it's presented, the proposal is presented to the community. People will queue up. Those who are participating in the face-to-face, they queue up at the microphone. They express their consensus towards towards that proposal. And if they disagree with that, they explain why they disagree. And the same opportunity goes to the remote participants as well. So the entire session is broadcasted remotely. Everyone can participate, and the remote participants can also queue up same time as the physical participants queuing up at the microphone in the remote room. And the chairs will consider both the queues, and provides opportunity for all to express their comments for the proposal. Everyone can participate. Those who are participating in this session, in this event, can also participate, especially those who are managing the networks or part of the decision-making process of the organization, students, anyone can participate and be part of this development process. The more, the better for participation, the more comments we receive on a proposal, and the better implementation of that proposal that can be used for the entire community. Why participate? I won't cover too much on this. I believe Amrita will talk more about on this. So for the lack of time, I'll skip this one, but we will revisit it. What's next? If you're thinking of engaging with the PDP development process, whether global or regional policy development process, the first step is to subscribe to the mailing list, be part of it, and then look for the proposals that's discussing. Currently we have a working group within this policy SIG looking at a report that I presented on the review of policy development, policy document. And please feel free to join. It's a very active, vibrant working group. Amrita is kindly put forward her name to chair that working group. So be part of that working group. That working group have a different mailing list. If you're interested, contact me. I can let you know. Or just jump on APNIC website and you can find the link to that working group. So please be part of it. We all can make a difference to the policy environment that we are in, and to have a better policies in place to help others to manage them through. Thank you so much. And thanks, George.
Thank you very much, Sunny, for your very detailed presentation. Starting from the policy environment, the objective, the fairness, the uniqueness, registration, and the management of the resources according to the policies, and who can be part of it and make decisions, and it's all driven by the community. So thank you for the presentation. So now I would like to introduce our second speaker, is Mr. Bertrand Cherie. Hello, Bertrand, how are you?
Good morning in Taiwan.
Yes, so
from New Caledonia.
Yes, Bertrand is from New Caledonia. He's currently working as a system administrator at the Micrologic System. It's an ISP in New Caledonia. He is also a founder of the local Linux user group, and it's also a founder for New Caledonian org. He's been very active in the internet community for the last 20 years. I've known Bertrand for a long time. He has attended every APNIC conference since 2011 and also been active in the Policy SIG forum. He joined since 2014, became a co-chair in 2017, and now he is the Policy SIG chair. So Bertrand, if you are ready, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George, for the introduction. I'll try to share my screen.
But perhaps you could just verbally walk us through your agenda for now.
Okay, so the agenda, we'll talk about a bit Oceania, from where I'm from, and the policy in this region. Then we'll talk about what drives a policy change, the challenges for the policy making. A typical example, we'll use a Prop 128 for that. And then we'll have not really question and answer, and because it's at the end of all the presentation, I guess. So now you see the map of Oceania, and at one end of the red line, which is our submarine cable, you will see the tiny island of New Caledonia, and on the other side it's Sydney. New Caledonia is a very tiny island, and we've got only 300,000 people there. And because of that, we are, everybody thinks that there's nothing we can do about anything because we are too small. So most of the time, people just accept what other people decide for them. So it's very hard to get people involved in any type of policy. So what drives a policy change? Well, the need to improve a process. If you had issues while trying to get resources, and you think it can be easier or quicker, and you got the idea of doing it, please share it with the rest of the community. It will help everyone, if it's the right thing to do, of course. The need to clarify a policy, like changing words, because of all the different languages in our region. Sometimes policies are written in a way that could be understood differently between different people. So it might be good to just point the thing that's wrong and change it. It's been done recently with the whole policy development process. Thank you, Sunny, for that. You might want to update an old policy because best practices have evolved since the policy was in place. And then you can say, well, now we need to do things differently, so we need to update it. And of course, removing an obsolete policy, like if there was a policy on IPv5, it's no longer to be used, so remove it. That's a bit weird. The challenges. New Caledonia and all Oceania is not different than anywhere in the region. We need people to get involved, to feel concerned, and to know that they can do something about it. And we're trying to reach as much people as we can, increase the audience in the policy SIG. Secretariat is doing a really good job helping us with that. One thing that would be nice, as TW Unique has an open policy meeting, and might be that they could designate someone to participate directly, say that Taiwan has talked about this policy, this proposal, sorry, and we do agree with it or we don't agree with it, and this is what we think. So that could be used in the consensus process. Now for the quick example. Prop 128 was to remove the multi-homing requirement for ASN. It did concern New Caledonia directly because we've got only one upstream provider, so we couldn't technically do multi-homing. We still hope one day we'll be able to do, but the policy before this prop was that you needed one and you would be connecting to another one further down in time. But we knew that we would never be able to do it in a short period of time. And even though we were really concerned about this proposal, it didn't really get people to move forward. We had three ISPs express themselves and saying that, of course, they support this proposal. But that's it. There's 5 ISPs in New Caledonia, and 2 just didn't care. So it's a very, very challenging time to get people involved in the policy process. And that's about it for my proposal, for my presentation. It's a bit short, I'm sorry, but I'm really sick and I'm struggling to be here today. So if no one has any question, I would like to thank you for having me on this panel list.
Thank you, Bertrand. Thank you very much. And again, despite that you are not well, you still managed to join us and share the experience and your perspective from where you are and also from as the policy chair. But we will hear you the challenges and what's the need that drives the policy change and perhaps the benefit of the result of policy change. So I hope you take care and thank you once again for speaking in this session. So now I would like to move to our third speaker, which is Ms. Amrita Chaudhry. Hello, Amrita. Amrita is the director of CCAOI, which represents the interests of internet users and non-users in India. Amrita is an active participant in tech policy discussion and focus on capacity building, outreach, and research in internet governance, both the domestic and international forum. Amrita wears many hats. She's a busy person, and she is also a founding member of India School of Internet Governance. So I'd like to thank Amrita for giving her time to speak today. Amrita, are you ready?
Thank you, George. I hope I'm audible to all.
Yes.
Thank you, George, and the ICANN TWNIC Engagement Forum for inviting me to this session. And good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a pleasure being here. I must admit, amongst all the technical people in this panel, I am not a techie. I look at policies from the other perspective, and I would be sharing a bit about how to engage or why a community should be engaging in the policy development process. I hope you can see my presentation as it is. So I'll talk more about why it is important for people like you and me, even if you are from the technical community or from the non-technical community, but who are looking at policies or who are using the internet or to be actually engaged in it. If I look at Asia Pacific, like Bertrand was mentioning, we are very diverse. We are diverse in terms of our geography. We have, all kinds of terrains. We have different cultures. We speak different languages. Though in certain parts English is spoken, but there are many parts where you have local languages which are more predominant. We have different economies. Economies in terms of very developed economies, we have developing economies, and we have LDCs, which are the least developing countries. And everyone has their different needs. And when we talk about development, we have different countries at different technical advancement levels. For example, we have countries like Taiwan or South Korea or Japan who have, internet connectivity at a greater level. Their network infrastructure is good. Their digital divide is much lesser, or their percentage of penetration of internet is very high. And we also have countries who do not have that much of internet penetration or infrastructure laid. The interesting part is, if we look at the top 2 internet countries who have the greatest internet population in the world, we have China and then we have India. Since I come from India, I will share the Indian perspective that though we have the second largest internet user base, we still have more than 65% of our people to be connected. So that's how diverse we are. And, having the same kind of rule for different people becomes very different because everyone has their requirements and the requirements are very diverse. But when a policy development, policies are made, if the policy developing people or the ones who are in charge do not know about the requirements, it is very difficult to have policies or sub-policies which can take into consideration everyone's need. So as I mentioned, there are established networks. If you look, and today you will be hearing from people from JP-NIC also subsequently, that there are even TW-NIC, for example, these are established networks. You have your individual national NOGs or where you have policies being discussed. I'm sorry I've used an abbreviation here, but PDP stands for Policy Development Process. So there are networks who are already set up. They are having their network meetings. Like, for example, TW-NIC, I just saw that you are having the 35th meeting. So you already have discussions going on. Your technical community or people looking at policies for these companies are discussing issues which are of relevance to you. However, you have emerging networks who may or may not be participating in these discussions, even within their own countries, but they have aspirations to have a good network. I'll take an example of India. If we look at it, we are somewhere in the middle. We aspire to be we are an emerging country. We aspire to have great networks. However, when we look at the INOG is going to have their 4th meeting this year. However, if we look at whether policies are being discussed in India, it is not. The INOG, till now, to my knowledge, only discusses operational issues. So I think that's something which perhaps policy development is required, and help, definitely. Many people need help or direction, and that's why engaging perhaps is important. So why engage in policy development process? Sunny was actually talking about it. For example, to have your voice heard. You may belong to a network operator or an ISP who is taking IP addresses. You have your requirements. You may face certain issues. You need to get those issues heard at proper forums. There's no point grumbling about it internally, but you have to raise it to the relevant people so that at least it can be discussed. And if it is found relevant, it can be discussed by the community to find some solutions, because not all solutions are centered in you. You have to share things, you may get best practices and be able to address a lot of issues. Issue of different types of networks, as I highlighted, there are different networks, they have different requirements. These need to be highlighted. Similarly, if we look at global decision making, for example, it is always said that when decisions or policies are made, it is taken, more weightage is given to the global West or the developed countries, primarily because they have been there active from earlier times. But when new countries or new emerging countries are coming up, if we want the voices to be heard, and if we want decision makers to balance all kinds of logic and come up with a balanced decision, it is important to participate. Similarly, as I mentioned, Asia Pacific is very diverse. So if we want all regions or economies to develop, and we want a balance to come, I agree that you cannot have an actual balance, but at least some kind of semblance, you need to participate in it. Now, why engage? Firstly, if you are from some company, or if you are from some NOG, or if you represent some NIC, you represent your organization's requirements in these policy development processes. You also help APNIC in managing their resources. Now, as Sunny mentioned when he was talking, APNIC does not take decisions by itself. It relies on community members to give suggestions based upon which a lot of resource management allocations are decided. So if you do not share your views, your perspectives, or even your questions, you may think it to be as silly as possible, but perhaps it may have value. That is why it is important. If we want unrepresented communities to be heard, it is important that you participate. No one is going to come and, ask you what it is. You have to raise your voice. And that's the beauty of internet, through which you can participate, and you can do it remotely. You don't need to be there in the physical meetings. And one thing which COVID-19 has taught us over the last 1 year is that you can do everything online. I agree, it is not like the real meetings where you can meet people, have your chats, but it does help. You can raise it from wherever you are. Your voice not being heard because you are not there in the meeting does not hold value today. And obviously contribute to the development of the internet. The beautiful thing which we use, all of us, we could also contribute in our own way. And as Sunny said, whatever is heard at the regional internet registry, they carry those messages when all the 5 RIRs meet and discuss for the global perspective. So this counts. It's not, even small steps help to reach a destination, I would say. So at your personal level, if you're looking at it as in why you should join, because all of this is voluntary work. Most of it is, you do it as a volunteer. You don't get paid unless your organization pays you for it. So you can exchange your thoughts and best practices. Many times you may get stuck with certain things, but some other country or some other person somewhere across the region may have been able to successfully address that issue. So you can exchange your thoughts, you can exchange your comments, you can be heard, because we all want to be heard. We all want to share our thoughts if we know about it. You can enhance your knowledge. I, for example, am not a technical person. I subscribe to the mailing list to understand what is happening, to understand what are the discussions which are happening, so that, perhaps if certain things are relevant, you can share your comment, or at least you gain your knowledge. Collaborating with people. If you look at the mailing lists of Policy SIG or others, there are people from different parts of the region working together on issues which are similar, and many times they become friends through this process. You increase your networking. You contribute to creating a policy, which obviously you have you feel good about it, that you've done something for the community. And obviously you develop your personal, you have a personal development, which you can also mention in your CVs, as in why not if you've been doing something. Sunny did mention that, if you want, you have various ways to join the mailing list, the ethnic policy SIG. In case you are a fresher or you are not from the technical community, or even if you are from the technical community and you want to participate, or even if you are a youth, and there is a need for young people to join these lists, and you are not sure about yourself as to, what it is, should I contribute? So I would suggest, based upon my personal experience, that be an observer, go through what is happening, ask questions, as in, most of the people, you ask Sunny, you ask Bertrand, send them private messages to ask what it is. I'm sure people will help you to understand it. As in, don't think it is a daunting thing that why should I join? Or you may not understand things initially, but if you go through the lists, you look at things, you look at what is happening, you will understand. Sometimes you may be inundated with the mails coming at different hours, but don't worry, you can read it at your pace, at your time. Look at those. And I would suggest that if you want to understand more, you can go through, APNIC has their blogs every week. They are not, certain things are about policies, certain things are about not policies, but you would get a sense of what is being discussed, what are the issues, challenges, even best practices which are shared, in those lists. So I would say read more, engage in these conversations more, join your local NOGs or even local communities which are discussing various things from your country's perspective, and ask questions. There are no silly questions. And if you feel that there is something which is important and that needs to be highlighted, please do so. And I'm happy to take questions. Thank you so much, George. In case I have missed out something and you want me to kind of speak on something, please happy to ask me questions.
Thank you, Amrita. I think we'll see how we go with the time, then we will probably have some questions at the end. But once again, I want to thank you for your talk. You did share from a very unique perspective, pointing out the diversity in the region, the advantage on different levels to take part in the policy development process, and the benefit, which I believe is very useful. So on that, I want to thank you again for your time, Amrita. Now, our next speaker, or fourth speaker, is Dr. Ching Henku. I believe Ching Henku is online now with us. Dr. Ku received a PhD degree in Computer and Information Science at the National Jiao Tong University in Taiwan. He has been working for TWNIC since 2004 and is currently the director for TWNIC's Internet Resource Department. Dr. Ku is also a regular attendee of APNIC conferences since year 2000, and is closely involved in various different SIGs and BOF, such as database in the past, NIR policy, and IPv6 deployment. His experience includes managing of the IPv6 project and RPKI deployment in Taiwan, upgrade of IPv6 promotion program of the MOTC, and chairing of the advanced and complete IPv6 ecosystem promotion plan of NCC in Taiwan. So, and Dr. Ku is a current APNIC policy co-chair. Now with that, I would like to invite Dr. Ku to speak. Ching Hen, are you ready?
Yes. Thanks, George, and thanks every speaker, panelists to join this session. Please share my slide. Okay. I am very pleasure to be here to present the TWNIC policy development process, the PDP. I'm Ching Henku, director of the IP department of TWNIC, and also the co-chair of the policy SIG of APNIC. I will talk about the NIR's perspective and the TWNIC experience on PDP, besides, I also will talk about the IP member service and my open policy meeting and the PDP. And this slide shows the global internet number resource management framework, where we can see the INR and the Internet Assigned Number Authority. Besides, there are 5 IR regional internet registries globally. There are ERIN in North American, Afinic in South American, RIPE NCC in Europe, and Afinic in Africa. In the Asia Pacific region is the Afinic. And end users will get an IP address from the ISP. The ISP will obtain the IP allocation and the address space from the Internet LIR or NIR or IRs. And okay, so there are 7 NIRs in APNIC regions. Each economy may only have 1 NIRs. And there are 7 NIRs serve their prospective internet community in local languages. NIRs can have their own policies and apply only to their members, but those policies must not conflict with regional and global policy. 7 NIRs are FG in Indonesia, CNIC in China, and IRIN in India, and JPNIC in Japan, and KISA in South Korea, TWNIC in Taiwan, and VNIC in Vietnam. And TWNIC is one of the NIRs which take the responsibility in the IP management and allocation, such as IPv4, IPv6, as number to our members. We have some member services such as the Internet Resource Allocation and the registration service, such as the WHOIS RPK and the reverse DNS. We also have the policy development and the coordinations in the open policy meeting and the take-some processes. We also have take some training and outreach activities. Especially we have joined a training and workshop with the APNIC. Besides, we have some publications from the data of our members of such as the ISP yearbook and the connection bandwidth survey and the IPv6 directory, and we also have some technical report and the website. This slide shows the TWNIC IP allocation and the members. We have more than 300 IP members. We also allocate 132,000/24 IPv4 addresses and 2,600 IPv6 addresses. And I introduced the TWIP Open Policy Meeting. The TWIP Open Policy Meeting, the Open Policy Meeting is held on December 23rd. And TWIP also hold the Open Policy Meeting twice a year. This the 35th and the 36th IPOPN this year. There are some different ways to participate the OPN, include the physical venue and the online using the YouTube Live. The IPOPN provides great opportunities and the communications on the network technology research industry development. It also brings together the opinions of various ISP in Taiwan to provide the ISP policy and the management mechanism. There are 4 regular SIG, includes policy SIG, corporation SIG, cybersecurity SIG, and IPv6 deployment SIG. Besides, we also have some birds of feathers. There have been held such as the Internet Jurisdiction Buff and the DNSSEC Buff. And this slide shows some photos for 31 to 34, the TWIP OPN. We many thanks many guest speakers to be our OPN and give the keynote speech. The keynote guest speakers such as from the APNIC Secretariat, APNIC EC, and the NC, and the ICANN, the AC, and there are some technical and the development and the service director to our OPN. This slide shows 2008 to 2020. And this slide shows this 2020, October 8th, we hold the 34 the TWIP OPN. There are two keynote speakers from NCC and Tsinghua University. And the APNIC Director General Paul Wilson and Judge Guo and also give online speech. This is the first time for us to both the physical venue and the online conference because of the COVID-19. We also have more than 180 attendees on the physical venue to attend the OPM. This slide shows the policy development process. This have the idea and the detail has been introduced by Sunny. These are open and transparent and button up. So the policy proposal is proposed by the members' need, and through the discussion and makes consensus, and they will be implemented and evaluate. This slide shows the Pdp, the author proposed policy proposal to TWIC, and the community will discuss the proposal on the mailing list. The policy meeting will discuss the proposal in the IPOPN and the IP annual meeting to make the consensus. If the consensus has been reached, the community have the chance to raise objection during the final call on the SIG mailing list. If the community discuss the proposal on the mailing list, the SIG chair will confirm the consensus has been reached or not. If the consensus has been reached, the IP committee will discuss the proposal, and if IP committee endorse the proposal, the policy will be implemented. This slide shows the text template of the TWIC policy proposal is learned from the APNIC, because if the proposal has be written, it will be easy to propose to APNIC. The content of the proposal include the proposal title and the proposal's name and email. And the important part is the problem statement, objective of policy change, and they need to propose the policy solution. Besides, the advantage and the disadvantage should be highlighted in the policy proposal. And TWIC community have some experience to participate the APNIC IP policy proposal. And this slide shows the proposal 127 is reducing the maximum delegation size of the 103/A to /27. This proposal is proposed by TWIC community in 31 TWIPOPN on 2018, and it proposed and reached consensus at APNIC 47 in 2019. And this slide shows some APNIC policy proposal in 3 years because Bertrand is the policy stick chair and I am the co-chair. So this slide is for your reference. Where we can see there are 7 policy proposals in these 3 years, and 3 relating to IPv4, and 1 to IPv6, 1 to AS number, and 1 to RPKI, and 1 for WHOIS. So it's very diverse of the policy proposal. So we have some challenge and observation from the policy proposal attendance of the community. Because the main IP resource management policy are in accordance with APNIC, so the number of the local policy proposal is not too much, and the community is relatively passive. So the policy stick mainly discuss the impact of the APNIC policy proposal for local ISP and IP members. So we continually encourage local community to make the proposal more actively through the annual IP member meeting and the IP OPM. And this is all my presentation. Many thanks for your listening. Thanks, George.
Thank you. Thank you, Ching Henku. Thanks for sharing the situation from in Taiwan and from TWNIC's perspective. And as a regular attendee of TWNIC OPM, I do admire the hard work that you guys are doing. It's really good to see that you kept the OPM events continue, and you've been doing that for many years. So my appreciation to your hard work, and I hope that the more audiences in Taiwan get to know more about the process, how it is done over there locally. Just before I introduce the next speaker, I just wanted to say, because of the delay earlier, that we are allowed to go over time a bit. So, and once again, apologies, and I just want to update on that. Now, our last speaker is Mr. Akira Nakagawa-san from Japan, who is the manager of JPIX, Japan Internet Exchange. Akira-san is also the current co-chair of Jpopf steering team. And he has actually been involved in Jpopf for many years. I believe it's over 10 years. And Akira-san is also involved in other program committees such as JPNIC Internet Week, IPv6 Deployment Committee, member of the Internet Association Japan, and he's a regular attendee of JNOG, which is Japan Network Operators Group. Now, I'd like to invite Akira-san to give his talk.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear?
Yes, Akira-san, please go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Japanese IP address and ACE communication, ACE community. I'm Akira. I'm working for JPX, and today I'm explaining about Jpopf SD or Jpopf in this presentation. I'll skip my self-introduction. This is the agenda of today, Jpopf, and about JPOPM and JPOPF activities. Many speakers told this. Policy is very important in this IP community. This is the structure of Internet Registry. JPNIC is next to TWNIC, and Jpopf is around JPNIC. I will introduce the relationship between JPNIC and Jpopf in the next slide. Jpopf is a forum, independent forum, and third party, run by third-party volunteers. Jpopf steering team is our group, and we are organizing this Jpopf. And it is composed of meeting and mailing list. This meeting is called JPOPM, and everybody can participate in this JPOPF. And the JPNIC is one of the participator of JPOPF. it's something different from other RIRs or NIRs. So JPNIC can propose policy as an attendee, like other community members. This is the reason to be independent of JPNIC, to reach consensus from neutral point of view. And it's easy to help newcomers to participate to this community. Most of the newcomers are non-experts, so we can help them. And it's to fill the language gap and geographic gap between AP and JP community. And other regions can, other RIRs and NIRs are operating their forum, but we are something different from other areas. And this, it's important. It doesn't mean JPNIC cannot do. We are just believing we can make them better by being independent. It's open, bottom-up, transparent, same as others. And 4 of us members of the Jpopf steering team. This is a brief policy development process, briefly. Everyone can participate and proposing new policies. And if getting consensus at Jpopf, the Jpopf, or exactly speaking, Jpopf steering team asks JPNIC to revise policy, and JPNIC revising and report it back and report it back. And I'll explain detail about after getting consensus. After getting consensus at Jpopf, as I told you, asking JPNIC to change policy. And if JPNIC will do the further discussions. And if JPNIC revise, JPNIC reports it back to community. And if no, it's abandoned and deported back. I've never seen experienced no, but it could be happen. For example, if there is inconsistency with other documents says right, but this new proposal says left, JPNIC have to abandon. Or if it costs too much, JPNIC has to abandon. But I've never experienced, because JPNIC is a member of Jpopf, OPF, and JPNIC can say opinion before getting there. And recent trends of JP community, number of policy proposals is decreasing because we believe no more before allocation, no more new transfer policies. Transfer policies have organized already, and we feel IPv6 doesn't require us to receive subsequent allocations. So we gradually focusing on operation of IP address. For example, we are making documents how to use JPNIC fluids for everybody. Next, talking about JPOPM, twice a year, variety of ways to attend, and no registration fee. And this is the on-site program just before Corona. And we have part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is for all, and part 2 is for beginners or newcomers. We are discussing about policy proposal or policy feedback, something report of who is working group. I will tell you later. And this is a program for beginners, explaining PDP or IPS news or how to use a kind of tutorial. And this is the recent program, short version of JPOPM because of online. This is the atmosphere of JPOPM. Good point of online JPOPM. People can easily attend or cut travel time, and easy to attend by just clicking. And for us, easy to count agree and disagree by function of Zoom. Zoom automatically calculates the number of hands, but it's difficult. At venue, we can see each wheel by their hands or face. But on digital, it's difficult to distinguish their wheel by digital hands. And another difficult point of JPOPM, online JPOPM, if participants use 2 or 3 Zoom accounts and attend, we cannot, we have to count 3, as I think it's discussed in other regions. And this difficult to maintain two-way communication, and chair has to judge consensus beyond silent display. It's a difficult point. And we are trying to ask regular attendees who can answer and start conversation, ice breaking. And now there is no trouble so far. And next JPOPM is number 40, 40th JPOPM, and 20 years. Exactly speaking, 34 times as JPOPF. It used to be held by JP Nick before 17 years ago. Finally, I'll show you some activities of JPOPF. I'll show you 6 activities from next slide. This is the history of policy proposals and the results. You can see it on the web, but sorry, it's in Japanese. And we can fill the gap between JP and AP. When we found a new policy proposal in AP NIC mailing list, one of us translated into Japanese, and we discussed in Japan with Japanese community, and reported the summary to AP NIC mailing list. And after the AP NIC conference, we imported again the feedback in Japanese. We are always switching language, Japanese and English, and Japanese and English. And sometimes we create a working group, short-time working group. Last year, we create quiz accuracy working group. We had meeting 9 times, online meeting 9 times. And we had a report here. And if you are interested in it, you can click here. And we are always sharing interesting AS and IP and AS news to JPOPF community. It's one of the examples. We are doing in each open policy meeting. And we are sharing our activities or information to other communities, such as journals or many conferences. And I'll add here today's presentation. The name of the presentation today is the longest in JPNIC or JPOPF history, maybe. And finally, it's one of the examples that we have created documents about how to use JPNIC quiz, very detailed. We are doing like this. If you are interested in JPOPF or JPNIC, a Japanese IPS community, click here. And JPOPF looks being operated by JPNIC. It's FAQ. It is completely different in decision-making process. But we always ask JPNIC to organize facilities or web meeting system or some office works. So it looks operated by JPNIC. But in decision-making process, we are independent. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akira-san, for sharing a lot of insight into Japanese community, how you organized and discuss policies and get people involved over there. And congratulations to the 20 years history of the JPOPM. You guys are really dedicated, and I can see a lot of good information sharing there. Akira-san being the last speaker, I think we can now open for question. Anyone participating on site in Taipei or online, please come forward. Feel free to ask questions. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Is there any questions from the floor on site? Mr. Guo, it seems that we don't have questions at the moment on site.
Okay, all right. So perhaps while we, I think we can still go over time a little bit due to the delay, and while we wait for people who probably get their question organized, I might just ask some of the speakers questions if you don't mind. And I might start with Akira-san first. We learned from you that JPOP have a long history, like 20 years. And recently I attended a JPOPM as well, and was really well organized and coordinated. And so I'm interested in your view, what drives people's participation in the policy development process in Japan? Are there any secret recipe that you can share?
It's very difficult issues because IP address have exhausted, and IPv6 doesn't require us to need subsequent allocation. So, but we are doing 2 points. We are usually sharing information to communities, like I introduced. Today is one of them. Mm-hmm. So, and talking about the situation or about JPOPM or this type of information. And secondly, we are changing the program as introduced. For example, we are doing the program for newcomers. Mm-hmm. We are separating part 1 and 2, and we are talking, have presentation about interesting or important information.
Okay.
That's the main doing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Akira-san. Mm-hmm. My next question, if we don't have any from the floor, I might just go over to Dr. Ku Ching Heng. Yeah. You introduced process locally in Taiwan, and I'm sure the audience get to hear your talk. Now, if anyone who is interested to get more closely involved with the TWNIC policy seek, how can they go about doing that? Is it a volunteering basis, or do they need to get elected into the SIG and so on? Are you able to share a little bit more information on that?
Okay, thanks this question. Because the TWNIC hold the open policy meeting where the 6 chairs are volunteers, and before the open policy meeting, we will have some discuss the day and the agenda direction with the 6 chairs. And the 6 chair will take in charge of the chair the session and to make the time control. So we will welcome all our members to join our OPN and annual meeting, so they can discuss their idea and they can propose their concept, and the 6 chairs can make some conclusion to decide there any working group or there need to be to form a proposal. That's our process. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you, Dr. Koo, for answering that question. Are there any from the floor,
yes,
in the room or online?
Mr. Guo, we do have one question from the floor.
All right, please go ahead. Who is at the mic?
Hi, this is Manju Chen from NIIPA. And I came a bit late, so maybe I missed this. Sorry if I missed this. Last time I checked, there were not many policy developing in APNIC, but apparently there are a lot in other RIRs. They have all kinds of policy developing. And I just wonder, why is it less policy kind of work going on in APNIC? And if any of you guys can, maybe touch on this topic, or maybe if there are policies going on, can you probably introduce a bit what the policies are about? What are the discussions? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I didn't quite catch your name, but I wonder if Sunny is able to perhaps respond to that question, given that you work closely with the APNIC and the SIG. Thank you.
Thank you, George, and thank you for that question from the audience there. It's a really good question and good observation that you're making of the policy development in our region. We always have proposals at every APNIC conference. Even up until last year, a February conference in Apricot APNIC in Melbourne, we had proposals to discuss. But suddenly we have to move because of the COVID situation. We have to move the conference to online. And no, because of the time zone differences, etc., no one put forward any proposals. And the proposals that was left over from the APNIC conference in February didn't carry forward because the author of the proposals is from LACNIC region, from South America. And our meeting conference time zone didn't suit that person. So that person requested the SIG chairs to postpone the discussion on that proposal to the later conferences. And so the conference this year, in February again, those two proposals came forward, and those two proposals were presented online. And to just let you know, to this community here, that was the first time ever APNIC policy SIG went online. And that was the first time ever a policy proposal was discussed online, completely online. But it was a great discussion. A lot of people joined, and one of the proposals moved forward, reached consensus, and it's at the last stage of the PDP cycle now. The other one, unfortunately, got disagreed by the community, so it got abandoned. But there is a constant flow of proposals coming to APNIC conferences. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't compare the numbers same as what the question was in terms of other regions. Maybe in other regions, people are more active than our region here, and this is what a good opportunity for here is for us here to take a role in the development process and be active. And the best place to start is to actually look at the current policies. Some of those policies are actually 10 years old, as Bertrand already mentioned, more than 10 years old. And you don't really need a technical knowledge to look at those policies, current policies. They're really not technical. It just makes easy for you to understand what they are and easy for you to propose a change of those policy to the current situation, what we are now. And if you need any help, we are all here. The SIG chairs are there, Bertrand and Ching Henku, and I'm here. That's one of my role to help the community. We can help as well. But that's a great question and good observation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sunny, and thank you, Manju Chen, for asking the question. Are there any more from the floor, perhaps we would have one more. Okay, I haven't heard anything, so I gather there is no bad. Okay, now allow me to quickly ask one last very question, perhaps to Amrita, because you comes from quite a different background to the rest of the speakers. And you did, I heard from your presentation, you did mention about a NOG, which is a Network Operators Group. And obviously there are also a very important part of a community where a lot of technical discussion is happening. And some of you also mentioned earlier, policy change is driven by needs. And obviously through the discussion in these forums, there are probably a lot of needs could be addressed. And you also mentioned out that perhaps there should be more discussion on the NOC level. So in your view, what do you think we could make these forums more conducive for the policy discussion and for their participation in the process? Amrita?
Thanks, George. I think it's an important question. There is no clear-cut answers, but perhaps certain things which can be done, as in depending upon countries, because many of these discussions are country-based. Perhaps whichever is the active community discussing networks or policies related to IP. It can be a NOG, it can be a NIC, it can be even the ISP associations. Perhaps encouraging them to discuss or having their members being part of the policy as in one or two people who are active, so that they can go back to their communities and, again, discuss the issues from their perspective, something which Japan is doing. As in Akira-san did mention that, whatever they hear or what is being discussed in APNIC, they translate it, take it back to Japan, discuss it, and from their perspective, come back with a summary. So that could be one of the ways in which they discuss, because many countries are not discussing policies as policies need to be discussed. They think policies are for regulators, how many of the technical people who are joining there, or they feel that this is not our domain. We have to write, but they need to understand they don't need to write. There is the APNIC Secretariat who can support them, or if they need some help, if they come up with a problem statement, perhaps even APNIC can help them to a certain extent, or they can take the help of the others who are very active to kind of make the problem statement and refine how to discuss it. It's just that they need to be aware why they need to discuss it and have perhaps certain people from their community participating in the regional policy development process, so that they can, and not center the discussion only to them, but to take it back to the community and discuss. For example, if I look at India, I hear a bit of underlying discussion on the transfer policy, but I do not see it being discussed properly. So perhaps those are certain things which could be done.
Thank you, Amrita. Okay, so I think that's all for the questioning time. And I believe, Sunny, you would like to make a final comments before we close.
Yeah, thanks, George. Just to add on to what Amrita said, it is quite important, to have that, to come forward and to just put forward an idea. You don't need to really elaborate on anything. If it could be just one word, one sentence, and we are here to help that person to elaborate later. And APNIC Secretariat, we can clarify on that idea, whether it's a good idea, bad idea, whether it's currently happening or not. And then we could introduce some mentors some experts in the community, even including the SIG chairs, co-chairs, and others who have proposed proposals in the past. We could introduce them to that person to then discuss and elaborate further to firm up a proposal to put forward. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to really thank the Jpopf, the JPNIC community, and recently the TWNIC community joined that same local engagement platform. And this is quite important because our region is so diverse. We need these communities to discuss, take it and discuss in their own local language, which helps the local community to have more proactive engagement in the development process. And one person from that community can just come and represent that entire community in a discussion process. That's all it requires, really. Not every individual, if they're not feeling comfortable, they don't need to. They can then appoint someone from that community to be a spokesperson for that community, and that's been accepted. And so I really like to thank these two communities, TWNIC and Jpopf, JPNIC, for taking the lead in this one. And I hope the other NAR communities, the other communities like Amrita is mentioning, the Indian community, take this as an example, a good example, to start the discussions and to get engaged in the development for this region. And with that, thank you again for everyone, and thank you for inviting me as well to this session.
Thank you, Sunny. So I would like to close the session now, and I hope you all enjoy the session and learn something about the policy development and the benefit to be part of it. There are local process and how they can work together with the regional process. So you are really very much encouraged to be part of it. And if you feel inspired to be part of the future policy development, I'm sure that you know who to contact and who to approach. And with that, I want to close this session and thank again for everyone who participated in this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Guo, for moderating the session, and thank you to all panelists for this very informative plenary.